On the 21st of March 2021, a burial containing mutilated corpses of 4 teenage boys was found by a shepherd's dog in the Janikhel area of Bannu district, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Pakistan. As the locals, including the victims' relatives, dug out the bodies, one was found to have been beheaded, one had been shot, and the other 2 had been stoned to death. The victims were identified and were aged between 13 and 17 years, and who were fond of hunting birds and wild hare in the area. The boys had went hunting 3 weeks ago, and had disappeared ever since. Soon after discovering the bodies, a protest sit-in started in Janikhel. On the 28th of March, about 10,000 protesters embarked on a long march from Janikhel to Islamabad along with the bodies, to demand action against militants. The local police erected hurdles on the road and used tear gas and aerial firing to stop the protesters for several hours. On the 29th of March, as the protesters had reached Dami Pool in Domel, the protest was cancelled on its way after successful negotiations with Mahmood Khan, the chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. According to local journalists, the 4 boys had been kidnapped during the previous year by Tehreek-i-Taliban Pakistan when they went hunting in a similar way. They were freed after a video of them was released. The locals refused to bury the dead bodies and started a protest sit-in outside the military fort in Janikhel. For a stronger protest, they decided to march along with the bodies to Islamabad on the 28th of March 2021. The Khyber Pakhtunkhwa police erected hurdles on the road and used tear gas and aerial firing to stop the protesters on the way, but the protesters succeeded to cross the hurdles. On the 29th of March, as the protesters had reached Dami Pool in Domel, the long march was cancelled after successful negotiations with Mahmood Khan, the chief minister of Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The protesters complained that several military operations were carried out against militants in the region, yet kidnappings and targeted killings frequently occurred. Their main demands were, the fathers of 3 of the victims worked as laborers, while the father of the 4th victim had died. The mother of Nizamullah, one of the victim boys, said, "I loved my son, I worked as a laborer, and even harvested the crops myself to raise him and run the house. But he left me at such a young age." Describing the condition of her house, she said that it was actually a room, not a 4-walled house, and that she had built it herself working as a laborer. She lamented that besides her daughters, she had only one son left now while her husband was disabled. She said, "I used to keep 10 or 20 rupees in my pocket for Nizamullah. When he would come at night, there would be little food, so I would tell him to drink more water so that his stomach was full." Before his leaving, he informed her that he was going hunting. She said that when he did not return and it became dark, "I went to the neighborhood and met the mother of Atifullah, who had gone hunting with Nizamullah." She said that the dogs that had gone with the boys have returned but the boys have not. Both women then started searching for their sons. Nizamullah's mother added, "I asked for a motorcycle from someone and put petrol into it. I sat on the motorcycle with a relative and kept looking for my son. People would mock me and say, 'Look, a woman is sitting on a motorcycle.' But I would say I was looking for my son and that I do not care what people say." The father of 13-year-old Atifullah, Zawali Khan, who worked in Saudi Arabia, said that he came back after finding out about his son's murder. "When I returned home 4 years after working hard in Saudi Arabia, I found my son's corpse. 4 days have passed and he has not been buried so that at least his soul could get justice. Atif was my youngest son." He added that his only other son had been in the custody of state agencies for the previous 5 months and he had not been able to see him since returning from Saudi Arabia. Ahmadullah's uncle, Dr. Subhan Wali, said that the protest would continue until the demands were met. He added, "The government should identify the killers, arrest and punish them, and ask those responsible for security, because there are checkpoints near where the bodies were found. Now this game of blood must stop." The provincial government approved a package of 2.5 million rupees each for the victims' families.